Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Chapter 71. 20 Years in Retrospect. Hearing Lin Yuan's words, Emperor Lu Shi was momentarily stunned in place. He had anticipated various answers, the more normal ones, to plead on behalf of the seventh princess, or to widen the selection scope, attempting to prevent the seventh princess from becoming a divine weapon bearer. The more ruthless response would be approval of Emperor Lu Shi's actions. As a member of the royal lineage, sacrificing for the nation was nothing out of the ordinary. But Lu Shi had never expected Lin Yuan's answer to be this. No need to cultivate a divine weapon bearer. Give me time and I will surpass the divine weapon bearers. It must be known that behind every divine weapon bearer stands a divine weapon, and within the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms, divine weapons are heaven itself. To surpass a divine weapon bearer is akin to surpassing a divine weapon itself. Such against heaven's expressions, once spread, would likely make the greater Yan dynasty the focus of the entire Central Plains' 36 kingdoms. At that time, the court would be shaken, and Lin Yuan's position as the crown prince could not even be guaranteed. Of course, Emperor Lu Shi, as Lin Yuan's father, naturally would not let these words escape. Yuan heir truly has grand aspirations, Emperor Lu Shi remarked with admiration. If Lin Yuan were already in his 30s or 40s, having witnessed the might of a divine weapon, such declarations would surely make one seem ignorant of the immensity of heaven and earth. The existence of a divine weapon is something those in high positions are all too aware of. But Lin Yuan was merely 6 years old. A 6-year-old child's impractical aspirations, what of it? When Emperor Lu Shi was 6 years old, he too wished to bring down the sun from the sky. However, Yuaner, such words should just be said to your father and no one else. Don't ever mention it to others, not even to your closest servants. After his praise, Emperor Lu Shi warned him. As the crown prince, one must be careful with words and deeds, and with the affection Emperor Lu Shi had for Lin Yuan, no matter what Lin Yuan did, there was always room for redemption, the only exception being matters related to divine weapons. I understand. Lin Yuan glanced at Emperor Lu Shi. He clearly knew that the latter hadn't taken his words seriously at all. This was something Lin Yuan had anticipated. He wasn't surprised at all. Following that, Emperor Lu Shi made small talk with Lin Yuan for a few more sentences. Then he stood up and left. Watching the receding figure of Emperor Lu Shi, Lin Yuan's eyes remained calm. With the methods at his current disposal, if he revealed strength surpassing that of a martial saint, it was highly likely that he would earn Emperor Lu Shi's trust. But such an act came with great risk. Mainly because Lu Shi was the emperor of the greater Yan dynasty, the spokesperson for that nation-protecting divine weapon. Was there some kind of methodology infused in him capable of sensing something? The moment Lin Yuan revealed his strength, he might alarm that divine weapon, leading to irreversible consequences. It must be known that divine weapons fed on the human race. The stronger the human strength and the more vigorous the vitality, the more delicious they were to divine weapons. Those with innate strong souls were even considered feasts by divine weapons, being bound by the title of divine weapon bearer and savored slowly. And in terms of vigorous vitality and a strong soul, who in the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms could compare with Lin Yuan? Could be predicted that once Lin Yuan's aura leaked, it would certainly drive the greater Yan dynasty's divine weapon mad. And it might not just be the divine weapon of Greater Yen, but the nation-protecting divine weapons of the other 35 kingdoms, which would awaken in unison to partake in Lin Yuan this feast together. Therefore, ever since learning of the divine weapons, Lin Yuan had been minimizing the frequency of his interventions as much as possible. Even if he needed to take action, he had to do so far away from the divine weapon ancestral grounds and people like Emperor Lu Shi who had been close to divine weapons. It wasn't that Lu Shi would betray his own son, but some matters were simply beyond his control. Perhaps he was unaware of what had transpired within him. Having fully integrated this world's cultivation system into my martial Tao, my current realm surpasses that of a martial saint. Let's call this realm martial god then. Lin Yuan sat cross-legged, silently contemplating. The realm of martial god has already broken free from the shackles of the flesh, and has achieved incredible feats in the aspect of divinity. The Tai Chi Yin and Yang paths transform into grinding wheels, constantly refining one's own divinity. If placed in the main world, the realm of martial god would roughly equate to the third-rank second to third segments. Lin Yuan's cultivation system uses the physical body as the foundation, the way of Taiji as the framework, and the main world's thousands of evolution paths as the flesh. Now, by further integrating the perfect body refining method of this world, it's like drawing upon all the advantages of the cultivation systems across various worlds. However, advancing further from here will not be so easy. Lin Yuan opened his eyes and thought to himself. Having arrived in this world for merely 6 years, Lin Yuan had already stepped into the realm of martial god, mainly relying on the accumulation from before his travels. If not for the time wasted integrating the perfect body cultivation method of this world, Lin Yuan could have entered the martial god realm 1 or 2 years earlier. But these advantages only go so far. The road ahead would require Lin Yuan to continue exploring on his own. Even with Against Heaven's understanding, future cultivation efficiency could not possibly exceed that of the first 6 years upon his arrival. I have 160 years to stay during this travel, and only 6 years have passed. Take it slow. Lin Yuan closed his eyes and continued his cultivation. The divine weapon is visible. Lin Yuan remains hidden. As long as Lin Yuan does not rashly expose himself, the divine weapon will be unlikely to discover his strength. And Lin Yuan, with his Against Heaven's understanding, grows stronger every moment. No matter how great the shackles and bottlenecks, it's only a matter of spending more time. As the Greater Yen dynasty cultivated new weapon masters, the situation amongst the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms stabilized once again. In dealings with other nations, the Greater Yen dynasty regained its confidence. With external threats gone, only internal governance remained. Emperor Lu Shi was not a muddled emperor. Furthermore, with Lin Yuan's occasional reminders, the national strength of the Greater Yen dynasty continued to grow. Especially since Lin Yuan took the initiative to increase trade with other nations, opening up many trade routes. The people of the Greater Yen began to prosper. As a result, Lin Yuan also received the support of many citizens. At least Lin Yuan's actions allowed the people to see that the Greater Yen dynasty could flourish for at least another generation. Throughout history, there have been many emperors who were the tiger father and the dog son, leading to great rises and falls in dynasties. And Lin Yuan was clearly quite capable and politically astute. He was fully capable of taking over from the old emperor. The ministers of the court also held Lin Yuan in high regard. After all, the Grand Tutor had admitted in front of Emperor Lu Shi that he was inferior to Lin Yuan. What could he do afterward to salvage his own face? The only option was to praise Lin Yuan enthusiastically. It wasn't that he was incompetent. It was that Lin Yuan was too monstrous. If you're so capable, you try taking over. First, there were actually a few ministers who objected. What can a child of a few years do to reach the sky? Grand Tutor, you've really grown old. It's time for you to go home and rest. But these few ministers were left speechless in front of Lin Yuan, mocked to the point where they couldn't utter a word. After this incident, And with Lin Yuan displaying some of his skills in front of other court officials and exercising both grace and might on several occasions, his prestige naturally rose. Emperor Lu Shi observed Lin Yuan in silence, the color of approval on his face becoming harder to conceal. When it came to the art of controlling people and maintaining balance, his son seemed to have an innate gift. The work he put into pacifying the ministers back in his day had not been easy. This certainly related to the manner in which Emperor Lu Shi had come to power, but consider how young Lin Yuan still is. Time passed, and so, 20 years went by. Chapter 72. My son should be a sage monarch. 1,000 miles from the capital of the Greater Yan dynasty. In an inconspicuous valley, a young man sat cross-legged. In front of him, a large amount of spiritual medicine was laid out. Each of these spiritual medicines was a rare treasure, any single one of which could make a blood-refining martial saint envious. But at this moment, they were piled up in front of him like common weeds. If an official from the Greater Yan dynasty were here, they would find. Compared to the spiritual medicines, the young man sitting cross-legged in front of them was even more unsettling, because this young man was the effective ruler of the present-day Greater Yan dynasty. Not the emperor but Crown Prince Lu Yuan, superior to the emperor. I have reached martial god full circle and can now break through to the next realm. In the valley, Lin Yuan's eyes were calm as he gazed at the many spiritual medicines in front of him. Over 20 years, Lin Yuan had completed the martial god phase, and with his against heaven's understanding, he had also deduced the specific path for the next stage. However, in Lin Yuan's predictions, breaking through the martial god phase might cause his aura to leak, thereby alerting the divine weapons. That was why he had come to this remote location before attempting the breakthrough. This valley was 1,000 miles away from the capital of the Greater Yan Kingdom, and more than 1,200 miles away from the divine weapon ancestral grounds of the Greater Yan dynasty. Such a distant location was sufficient to conceal the disturbances caused by Lin Yuan's breakthrough. Let's begin. Lin Yuan exhaled slowly. The many spiritual medicines in front of him turned to dust, their essence streaming into Lin Yuan's mouth. Exhale. Inhale. With each breath Lin Yuan took, his body underwent earth-shaking changes. His vital energies transformed, reaching ultimate condensation and sublimation. Buzz. A terrifying aura uncontrollably spread in all directions. For a moment, every small animal in the valley felt an overwhelming sense of suffocation, as if the heavens were collapsing and an ancient godly being was descending. Fortunately, this suffocating feeling only lasted for a moment. Half an hour later, all auras completely converged. Is this the Heavenman realm? Inside the valley, Lin Yuan stood up, keenly feeling the substantial increase in strength throughout his body. Above the martial god is the Heavenman. The god, in martial god, refers to the spirit, an aspect of soul and spirit untouched by all cultivators in this world, while the Heavenman is a realm beyond the martial god. Taiji Field. Lin Yuan's mind stirred. An invisible ripple spread out, easily encompassing an area of more than 10 miles around him. Before his breakthrough, Lin Yuan's Taiji field could only cover a few miles. Now it had expanded several times, covering nearly 20 miles. Moreover, the Taiji field was not only larger in scope. The suppressing and binding force had also increased several times. Now, if Lin Yuan faced a third-rank evolver like Bing Yan, just by using the Taiji field, he could suppress his opponent completely, leaving no chance for resistance or struggle. Besides the Taiji field, Lin Yuan's physical soul and vital spirit had also undergone a transformation. This breakthrough has increased my strength. Lin Yuan sighed lightly, a look of satisfaction on his face. It's getting late. It's about time I returned. Lin Yuan stepped out of the valley. As he moved, the air subtly distorted, invisible to an ordinary person's view. With the power of the Taiji field, a slight twist in the light rays could make Lin Yuan effectively invisible. Of course, such invisibility had little effect on true powerhouses. Powerhouse perception does not rely solely on sight. Eastern Palace. Lin Yuan's figure appeared silently. Shortly after, a eunuch walked in cautiously. "Your Highness, here is what you requested." The eunuch held out a sealed letter respectfully. Lin Yuan took the letter, glanced at it, and it turned to dust. Over the past 20 years, besides further advancing his strength and entering the Heavenman realm, Lin Yuan leveraged his vision beyond the era to open up trade routes among the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms, and covertly established a massive intelligence network. Even Emperor Lu Shi was unaware of this, and within the entire imperial palace, only the eunuch, whose life and death hung on Lin Yuan's whims, knew something about it. The purpose of establishing an intelligence network was naturally to investigate the divine weapons. As the spokespeople for the nation protecting divine weapons, most descendants of the greater Yan royal family were utterly loyal to the divine weapons, making it fruitless and burdensome to investigate divine weapons using the royal family's power. Only by establishing his own forces and nurturing his wings could he hope to learn more about the divine weapons. Actually, Lin Yuan had no animosity towards the divine weapons since there was no grievance between them. However, divine weapons constantly thought about devouring him. In the eyes of the divine weapons, all people were food, and Lin Yuan was considered a delicacy among meals, setting their positions irreconcilably against each other. Over 20 years, Lin Yuan's understanding of divine weapons had far surpassed that of his first 6 years after his arrival. The first point was the origin of the divine weapons. Most of this was myth and legend, without solid evidence to prove it. The specific rumors were, thousands of years ago, in the ancient times, there were godly beings who walked the earth and ultimately forged divine weapons. Moreover, the divine weapons forged at that time were not limited to just 36, but later some unknown calamity happened. As a result, only 36 divine weapons remained, each safeguarding one of the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms, forming the current situation. Thousands of years ago? Ancient godly being? Lin Yuan stroked his chin, deep in thought. To Lin Yuan, these so-called ancient godly beings were nothing more than powerful evolvers. However, why this ancient godly being would create these sentient divine weapons was beyond anyone's understanding. And since that time, the ancient godly being who created the divine weapons disappeared without a trace, never to be seen again. This was something that greatly puzzled Lin Yuan. Such a powerful being, even if at the end of his lifespan, would at least leave behind some specific legends. If one could capture a divine weapon and perform a soul search, a thought struck Lin Yuan's mind. Since the divine weapons had developed spiritual wisdom, they possessed consciousness and a soul. And soul search was a technique that used one's powerful mental force to forcibly scan the memories of another. But this idea was quickly dismissed by Lin Yuan. Based on his current understanding of the divine weapons combined with the historical instances when the divine weapons had revived, Lin Yuan deduced that each of the divine weapons guarding the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms had nearly 4th-rank power. Such strength was beyond Lin Yuan's current capability to confront. Perhaps at the Heavenman realm stage, achieving perfection, he might reach close to 4th rank. Even so, he would be at the same level as the divine weapons. To capture a divine weapon would certainly cause a massive upheaval and attract the attention of other divine weapons. At that time, Lin Yuan could be facing a situation where 36 sword divine weapons were against him alone. How is the investigation into the Defying Divine Society going? Lin Yuan casually asked. The Defying Divine Society was an extremely secretive underground organization. It was active throughout the entire Central Plains' 36 kingdoms. If it were not for the intelligence network established by Lin Yuan, which once caught traces of the Defying Divine Society, it would have been difficult to uncover information about this organization. The aim of the Defying Divine Society was to overthrow the rule of the divine weapons. For thousands of years, the divine weapons had reigned supreme, using all living beings as their sustenance. It was bound to provoke resistance from certain people. However, the power of the divine weapons was unmatched. These people could only hide in the shadows, establishing the Defying Divine Society and waiting for an opportunity. and Lin Yuan intended to use the Defying Divine Society to gain specific information about the divine weapons. As an organization that had opposed the divine weapons for thousands of years, it surely held many secrets about them. And these were precisely what Lin Yuan needed. To know both your enemies and yourself is the only way to win. The more Lin Yuan understood about the divine weapons, the more confident he could be. Your Highness, we have pinpointed the general area of the Defying Divine Society's main headquarters in the Greater Yan Dynasty. Within half a month, we should be able to ascertain its exact location. The eunuch answered respectfully. The following day, early in the morning, the Imperial Guard arrived outside the Eastern Palace. Your Highness, the Emperor has summoned you. The head of the Imperial Guard said respectfully. Father Emperor is okay, isn't he? Lin Yuan immediately got up upon hearing this. Emperor Lu Shi had his children late in life. When Lin Yuan was born, Lu Shi was already almost 50 years old. 26 years had passed, and Lu Shi was now over 70 years old. In his youth, Lu Shi had paid a heavy price in the struggle for the throne, acquiring many hidden injuries in the process. Now that he was old, these injuries naturally began to manifest more severely. This condition was something Lin Yuan had noticed over 10 years ago. He had even specifically studied medical texts and formulated several treatment plans for Lu Shi. However, injuries to the body's origin source required extensive time to heal, compounded by old age, and in recent years Lu Shi had increasingly withdrawn from handling state affairs. There shouldn't be any issues, Lin Yuan thought to himself. With the treatment plans he had devised for Lu Shi, while they might not extend his life indefinitely, they should at least slowly mitigate the internal injuries. As long as no major complications arose, living to 100 would not be a problem. Of course, the symptoms common to the elderly, like lack of energy, were inevitable. It's not that Lin Yuan couldn't solve these issues, but because of the existence of the divine weapons, Lin Yuan couldn't utilize his true power. Inside Chengtian Hall, Lin Yuan saw Emperor Lu Shi. Lu Shi was in fairly good spirits, sipping on his medicinal broth. Yuaner. Seeing Lin Yuan come in, Lu Shi quickly waved him over. Father Emperor. Lin Yuan walked over. My health and spirit are in decline, and I am no longer capable of handling the multitude of state affairs. Lu Shi's gaze shifted to the ministers beside him. These ministers were all high officials of the court, and they had arrived before Lin Yuan. Therefore, I wish to abdicate and become the retired emperor, and leave Greater Yan in Yuaner's hands. What do my loyal subjects think? Lu Shi looked at the ministers. The ministers exchanged glances. They had anticipated this day for a while and weren't surprised at all. Father Emperor. Lin Yuan looked at Emperor Lu Shi. My son should be the sage monarch. Emperor Lu Shi didn't say much more but patted Lin Yuan's shoulder, his expression showing a trace of relief. In the year 3625 of the Greater Yan calendar, the new Emperor Lu Yuan ascended to the throne. Chapter 73. Only a divine weapon can counter a divine weapon. The new emperor ascended the throne. All under heaven celebrated. All 35 states of the Central Plains sent envoys to offer congratulations. Lin Yuan responded to each one without showing the slightest unfamiliarity. Although he had just ascended, for the past 10 years, Lin Yuan had been the crown prince serving as regent. The military and political power of the state were in his hands. Compared to a true emperor, he lacked nothing but the title. Half a month later, inside Chengtian Hall, Lin Yuan, dressed in a dragon robe, fell into deep thought. After officially taking the throne, the true secrets of the Greater Yan Dynasty unfolded before him, mainly concerning the divine weapons. The nation-protecting divine weapon of the Greater Yan Dynasty. Its true name was the Sun and Moon Spear. In more than 3,600 years of Greater Yan's history, the divine weapon Sun and Moon Spear had revived 3 times. Each time because of the disturbance caused by the evil soldier, leading to the suffering of the people, and then the warriors would act, mobilizing the divine weapon to suppress everything. Evil soldier? Lin Yuan stroked his chin. to force a divine weapon into action. The so-called evil soldier must possess strength far surpassing that of a martial saint. Defying divine society. Lin Yuan pondered internally. According to the information possessed by the Greater Yan dynasty, the defying divine society always had an ambiguous connection with the evil soldier. Every time the evil soldier caused chaos, the shadow of the defying divine society was behind it. Therefore, the Greater Yan dynasty, more accurately the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms. Whenever they encountered someone from the defying divine society, it was always kill without mercy. There was no need even for capture. This was also the will of each nation protecting divine weapon, which no one dared to defy. Seems like this defying divine society holds great secrets. Lin Yuan's expression hinted at a deep thought. His forces were now close to pinpointing the location of the headquarters of the defying divine society within the Greater Yan dynasty. Whatever secrets the defying divine society held would soon be unveiled before Lin Yuan. Atop the royal court, Lin Yuan sat on the dragon throne. The Minister of Rights stepped out from the ranks and respectfully said, "Your Majesty, having succeeded to the great rule, should promptly visit the divine weapon ancestral grounds to offer sacrifices to the divine weapon." The 36 kingdoms of the Central Plains shared many traditions. One of these was the sacrificing to the divine weapon. Every newly ascended emperor needed to quickly visit their respective divine weapon ancestral grounds to offer sacrifices to the divine weapon. This tradition was quite normal. After all, the nation protecting divine weapons, for each kingdom, represented an existence as supreme as the heavens themselves. Sacrificing to the divine weapon was essentially no different from sacrificing to the heavens. Sacrificing to the divine weapon? Lin Yuan looked towards the Minister of Rights. The divine weapon ancestral grounds was not located in the capital, but hundreds of miles away from it. Lin Yuan had always been wary of the divine weapon ancestral grounds, even though he was sure that most of the time, the divine weapon Sun and Moon Spear was in a dormant state. He was reluctant to get close to the divine weapon ancestral grounds. Not long ago, Lin Yuan had advanced to the Heavenman realm and, to ensure nothing went wrong, purposely left the capital to break through in a location far from the divine weapon ancestral grounds. "I have been recently unwell. Let's postpone the sacrifice to another day." Lin Yuan found a casual excuse to brush it off. Sacrificing to the divine weapon was a tradition established by the ancestors, and even the emperor could not change it. But being unable to change it didn't mean it couldn't be delayed. Lin Yuan was not refusing to go, just that due to his ailment, he planned to go after some time had passed. Who could say anything about that? Yes. The Minister of Rights helplessly retreated. Unwell? Nonsense. Others might use this excuse, but the reigning emperor using it. The Minister of Rights was an old official who had served through 2 dynasties. He naturally knew that Lin Yuan was determined by imperial physicians at birth to possess the strongest constitution and physical strength ever seen in the history of the Greater Yan dynasty. Even if there was some exaggeration involved, it definitely had some basis. The retired emperor had always disfavored flattering subordinates, so the imperial physician's conclusion back then must have been based on some factual elements. Under these conditions, when Lin Yuan said he was unwell, the Minister of Rights definitely didn't believe it. But not believing it did no good. Continue to admonish? If it were the normal ascendance of a new emperor, he, the Minister of Rights, would dare to do so. After all, a new emperor in the early periods of his reign definitely had to listen to the advice of his ministers to stabilize the court. But Lin Yuan, over so many years, the Minister of Rights had some understanding of this prince who had been crown prince for over 20 years before smoothly ascending to the throne. If he truly insisted on continuing his admonishment, playing that old tune silly, the emperor might just indulge him. Not only that, the emperor would considerately include his family and even his 9 clans to join him below. Forget it. Let's just delay it. The Minister of Rights opened his mind. He was merely following protocol, and just needed to mention it periodically. He didn't believe the emperor could delay it for 20 or 50 years. Wuyan City. This was a city in the southern part of the Greater Yen dynasty. Backed by the vast mountains of Dashan, it was quite prosperous. In the dense forest more than 10 miles from Wuyan City, unbeknownst to anyone, over 20 figures had appeared. These 20-some figures, although standing there, vaguely exuded surging vital energy, all evidently at the level of blood-refining martial saints. Blood-refining martial saint was the limit ordinary people could reach. Further up were the various weapon-bearers. And the weapon-bearers, considered messengers of the divine weapons, were no longer human. The over 20 blood-refining martial saints were already comparable to the collective might of the 36 states of the Central Plains, rivaling the number of martial saints in the slightly weaker dynasties. Apart from the more than 20 martial saints, many other powerful figures were converging from a distance. That dense forest should be the headquarters of the Defying Divine Society. The Master mentioned, "Capture all remnants of the Defying Divine Society. Do not kill them, do you understand?" The leading martial saint's lips did not move, but his words carried along the fluctuations of vital energy and traveled through the air into each martial saint's ears. "Understood. Got it. Capture only, that's right." Many martial saints nodded, showing no objections. The battle ended smoothly. Under the onslaught of more than 20 blood-refining martial saints, hundreds to thousands of organ refinement, innate martial masters, and marrow refinement grandmasters, the headquarters of the Defying Divine Society was swiftly flattened. Sikong Luin, the leader, hadn't even had time to escape through the secret tunnels. Before he was blocked by 3 blood-refining martial saints. Then everything before his eyes went dark and he knew no more. By the time Sikong Luin regained consciousness, he shockingly found himself inside a luxurious carriage. All the meridians in his body were sealed, incapable of mobilizing even a trace of vital energy. To put it simply, Sikong Luin was now a cripple. Even an ordinary person with a knife could kill him, that type of cripple. Who exactly is it? Tumultuous waves surged in Sikong Luin's heart. As the leader of the Defying Divine Society, viewed as a rat crossing the street by the 36 states of the Central Plains, Sikong Luin was very clear in his mind. He was certainly no match for the 36 states equipped with nation-protecting divine weapons. That's why he had placed great emphasis on concealment when establishing the headquarters of the Defying Divine Society. And beneath the headquarters, he had dug layers of tunnels, so that even if a trace of evidence was detected, he could swiftly escape through the tunnels, preserving his strength. But just now, Sikong Luin couldn't help feeling a chill. More than 20 blood-refining martial saints, wantonly exerting their vital energies' oppressive force. Thousands of organ refinement innate martial masters and marrow refinement grandmasters taking action swiftly. Under such suppression, not even he, the leader of the headquarters, got away, let alone the other members. Which power made the move? The Greater Yen dynasty, or one of the other 35 states? No! Sikong Luin frowned deeply. If he had fallen into the hands of the 36 states of the Central Plains, how could he possibly still be alive? The 36 states of the Central Plains always dealt with the likes of their Defying Divine Society remnants by killing them outright, leaving no troubles behind. As for severe torture to extract information about other remnants' whereabouts, the Defying Divine Society was very strict in its structure, and as such a leader, he had other means within his body. If anyone dared disclose vital secrets, they would immediately die explosively. And ordinary members wouldn't know much, so there was no point in interrogating them. Despite racking his brains, Sikong Luin couldn't figure out which force had targeted him. This place should still be Wuyan City. Sikong Luin barely lifted the curtain and glanced outside. Forget it. Whether I live or die, I can't decide. Sikong Luin had no thoughts of escaping. What a joke. A mysterious force that could mobilize over 20 martial saints. Could he possibly escape from the carriage? About half an hour later, the carriage finally stopped. Sikong Luin immediately perked up. Then the carriage door opened, and a man invited him to step out. Sikong Luin took one look at the man. He seemed familiar and he quickly recognized him. This man was one of the more than 20 blood-refining martial saints who had acted earlier. With the status of a blood-refining martial saint in the 36 states of the Central Plains, he was now serving as his coachman? Sikong Luan took a deep breath. He gained a deeper understanding of the means of the person behind the scenes. Stepping down from the carriage, Sikong Luan followed the martial saint coachman into the residence before them. To call it a residence was an understatement. It was more like an imperial palace. Inside, the layout was intricate, filled with various palaces. In the deepest part of one palace, Sikong Luan met the person behind the moves against the defying divine society. This was a young man, radiating an unspeakably noble air. Mere sitting there made Sikong Luan feel somewhat ashamed. "You may leave now." Lin Yuan looked up, waved his hand, and dismissed the coachman martial saint. "Yes, master." The coachman martial saint respectfully left the grand hall. "Master." Sikong Luan swallowed hard. A mighty blood-refining martial saint acknowledging this young man as his master? If it hadn't been for witnessing it with his own eyes, Sikong Luan would never have believed it. After a silence, Sikong Luan steadied his mind and took the initiative to speak. "May I ask, sir, for what reason you have captured me?" At this moment, Sikong Luan also realized that he must be of some use to this young man. Otherwise he wouldn't be standing before him. "I want to know. What exactly does your defying divine society use to contend against the 36 nations nation-protecting divine weapons? And what is this evil soldier?" Lin Yuan asked. Upon hearing this, Sikong Luan displayed a look of astonishment. He had thought that the other party wanted to learn about the other headquarters of the defying divine society. Sikong Luan had been prepared that should Lin Yuan inquire about these matters, he would immediately trigger the mechanism within his body, dying by his own hand. But he hadn't expected this question. Divine weapons reign supreme. How could we mere mortals confront them? Sikong Luan paused for a moment, as if organizing his thoughts. Since ancient times, only a divine weapon can contend against another divine weapon. That is an iron law. Chapter 74. Since we're here already, only a divine weapon can combat another divine weapon? Lin Yuan's expression remained calm. There was nothing wrong with this statement. For thousands of years, under the covert influence of the divine weapons, the martial arts system of this world had become deformed, merely honing the physical body and enhancing the vitality. Even if there were extremely talented individuals, they would still only reach the stage of a blood refinement martial saint, becoming delicacies in the eyes of many divine weapons. The blood refinement martial saint corresponds at most to the second layer's ultimate level. The divine weapons, at the very least, are on the brink of the fourth rank. The gap between the two, if measured by the ranks of the main world, spans at least a dozen realms. Are you saying that these so-called evil soldiers are also divine weapons? Lin Yuan asked with interest. Indeed, that is the case. Sikong Luan nodded and said, "Given your status, it shouldn't be difficult to know that all divine weapons originate from 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago, an ancient godly being sacrificed mountains and rivers, melted the seas, and forged many divine weapons. All the divine weapons of the present age come from that era." Lin Yuan's thoughts fluctuated, yet he continued to gaze calmly at Sikong Luan. Feeling the pressure of Lin Yuan's gaze, Sikong Luan felt a great deal of pressure and continued, 10,000 years ago, the divine weapons forged by the ancient godly being were far more than 36. But something happened later. Most of the divine weapons were shattered, leaving only 36 intact divine weapons. Those shattered divine weapons were later declared evil soldiers by the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms. Sikong Luan said all this in one breath. This information was extremely confidential even within the defying divine society, known only to leaders like him. However, these secrets did not touch on the foundation of the defying divine society, so he had the authority to disclose them. So that's how it is. Lin Yuan resolved many doubts in his heart. Sir, although I do not know which power you belong to, the 36 nation-protecting divine weapons regard us the human race as pigs and dogs, consuming a great number of living human sacrifices periodically. Who can tolerate such actions? Sikong Luan spoke up immediately when Lin Yuan remained silent. The Defying Divine Society had managed to survive the siege of the 36 nations by relying not only on some evil soldiers for protection but also because the divine weapons practice of consuming humans easily ignited the rebellious spirit among many of the human race. As long as the truth is known, a significant number of people, if not joining the Defying Divine Society, at least would not stand in opposition to it. After all, you might not resist the rule of the divine weapons, but there is also no need to obstruct the Defying Divine Society. After all, should the Defying Divine Society ever overturn the divine weapons one day, as a member of the human race you too would benefit. Do you want me to join the Defying Divine Society? A flicker of unusual expression crossed Lin Yuan's face. He indeed had thoughts about the Defying Divine Society, but it was not about him joining them, but rather making them serve him. Bring an evil soldier here, and I will consider it. Lin Yuan contemplated for a moment before speaking. So far, Lin Yuan was still no match for a fully empowered, divine weapon. But if he couldn't handle a divine weapon, couldn't he handle an evil soldier? Evil soldiers, being shattered remnants of divine weapons, retained only 1% of their strength. And with years of hiding and not being able to consume a large amount of living humans' vitality and soul, their strength was, at most, slightly stronger than a martial saint, roughly equivalent to a weakened version of a martial god. In such cases, Lin Yuan started pondering the study of evil soldiers. Regardless of how weak, after all, they were once divine weapons, and with his against heaven's understanding, perhaps he could uncover the weaknesses of the divine weapons from them. Consider it? Sikong Luan's pupils slightly contracted. His earlier words were meant to evoke Lin Yuan's pity, thereby sparing his life. Unexpectedly, Lin Yuan was seriously considering it. It's known that the rationale of divine weapons consuming living beings rarely affects real powerful figures. After all, these powerful figures stand at high positions, and even if divine weapons truly consumed humans, it wouldn't affect them personally. And in Sikong Luan's eyes, Lin Yuan was undoubtedly among the most powerful of figures. Fine. But I need to return to the headquarters. There is a fragment of a divine weapon that no one else but me can find. Sikong Luan decisively agreed. He could think of no reason for Lin Yuan to deceive him. Even though evil soldiers are fragments of divine weapons, they possess their own consciousness. Let alone 20 martial saints, not even 200 could contain an evil soldier. Under Lin Yuan's command, Sikong Luan successfully left the imperial palace. If such a major figure really joins the Defying Divine Society, Sikong Luan felt elated. Although Lin Yuan had never revealed his true identity throughout, from the destruction of the Defying Divine Society's headquarters by various powerhouses, one could sense his formidable and inscrutable power. With the support of such a character, the future days of the Defying Divine Society would undoubtedly be much better. Thinking this, Sikong Luan's pace quickened once again. Defying Divine Society headquarters. This place had already been razed, but a few still guarded it. Returning here, Sikong Luan felt a mix of emotions and also brought Lin Yuan's orders. Soon, Sikong Luan reached the deepest part of the underground. This was a stone chamber, completely empty. Sikong Luan approached a corner, muttered a few words, then dribbled a few drops of blood. Thunder rumbled. A stone door slowly opened. Seeing this, Sikong Luan let out a slight sigh of relief. The open stone door meant that the evil soldier had not left. It's known that each evil soldier possesses its own consciousness. If the Defying Divine Society headquarters was destroyed, it was only natural for the evil soldier confined here to have left. Entering the stone gate, Sikong Luan walked up to a stone platform. His expression respectful, he spoke softly. I have seen the superior. On the stone platform rested a fragment. It seemed to be a part of a mirror. Oh, wasn't this Defying Divine Society wiped out? How are you still alive? A wave of spiritual fluctuation emitted from the fragment on the stone platform. The tone carried a hint of interest. "It's like this." Sikong Luan shared everything he knew. There was no choice. If he wanted to bring the evil soldier to meet Lin Yuan, he needed the evil soldier to be willing. So that's how it is. The spiritual fluctuation of the fragment slowly transmitted. "You want this seat, when meeting that person, to directly take control of him?" The fragment continued to inquire. The fragment was a part of the divine weapon, Saint Heart Mirror. Even though broken, it still possessed the ability to confuse and enslave the hearts of men. However, this ability should be used as infrequently as possible, for it too burdens the fragment itself. The most critical issue was the evil soldier's actions, emitting fluctuations, could easily be caught by real divine weapons, thus leading to the awakening of the nation-protecting divine weapons. This was also the reason why the Saint Heart Mirror fragment did not act when the Defying Divine Society headquarters was destroyed. Of course, this probability was very small, but for the evil soldier it couldn't be ignored. However, that was in relation to enslaving ordinary people. If the Saint Heart Mirror fragment could control Lin Yuan, such a significant figure, then the gains would far outweigh the risks. Not to mention, just amongst Lin Yuan's subordinates, the more than 20 martial saints, if the Saint Heart Mirror fragment could consume 10 of them, then it would greatly heal the original damage of the Saint Heart Mirror fragment. In the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms, each kingdom has its nation-protecting divine weapons, which can consume a large number of living human sacrifices periodically. But an evil soldier like the Saint Heart Mirror fragment does not enjoy such treatment. "Are you sure what you're saying is true?" The Saint Heart Mirror fragment once again emitted spiritual fluctuations. "Superior, every word I said is true," Sikong Luan solemnly stated. "If you want the evil soldier to make a move, it is impossible without a price." "Good. Take me there." The Saint Heart Mirror fragment floated up and landed in Sikong Luan's hand. Sikong Luan, carrying the Saint Heart Mirror fragment, soon returned to the outside of the imperial residence. Such a deeply missed scent. The Saint Heart Mirror fragment, hidden within Sikong Luan's embrace, emitted faint spiritual waves. Just standing at the doorway, it sensed 7 or 8 martial saints' presences. Blood refinement martial saints. Even for genuine nation-protecting divine weapons, these were rare to encounter and not every time available for consumption. Let alone in the eyes of an evil soldier like the Saint Heart Mirror fragment, treated as a street rat. The Saint Heart Mirror fragment could not remember the last time it tasted a blood refinement martial saint. 200 years ago, 300 years ago, or 500 years ago. With a sentiment of reminiscence and excitement, the Saint Heart Mirror fragment moved closer to the grand hall in the depths, along with Sikong Luan. The fleeting aura flashes along the way further excited the Saint Heart Mirror fragment. At this moment, the Saint Heart Mirror fragment had only one thought, which was to control Lin Yuan as soon as possible. Then, through ordering Lin Yuan, have these blood refinement martial saints be consumed one by it. Shortly after, Sikong Luan stopped in front of the grand hall at the deepest part. It was in this grand hall that he had met Lin Yuan, who must still be inside waiting for him. "Superior, we have arrived." Sikong Luan touched his chest, reminding the Saint Heart Mirror fragment. I know. The Saint Heart Mirror fragment emitted an impatient spiritual fluctuation. However, out of caution, it still subconsciously used the residual power of the divine weapon to sense inside the grand hall. What is this? The mind of the Saint Heart Mirror fragment instantly boiled. Through the close sensing of the divine weapon, it instinctively perceived an extremely dangerous aura. What's going on? The Saint Heart Mirror fragment was puzzled and shocked. Under the heavens, only true divine weapons could pose a threat to it. And through the connection between divine weapons, it confirmed that there were no divine weapons inside the grand hall. No divine weapons, yet such a deadly threat. The Saint Heart Mirror fragment found it incomprehensible. Forget it. This place is not suitable for a long stay. After a few breaths of thought, the Saint Heart Mirror fragment decided to retreat. Its spiritual fluctuation reluctantly swept over the nearby blood refinement martial saints one last time before it completely withdrew them. Whoosh! A streak of light flew up from Sikong Luan's chest. Looking closely, one would see that at the core of this light, there was the appearance of a fragment of a mirror. Let's go! The Saint Heart mirror fragment flew toward the outside of the imperial residence. Just then, a voice came from inside the grand hall. You've come all this way, won't you come in and take a look? In an instant, the power of heaven and earth within several miles boiled. The power of Taiyin and the power of Taiyang merged, forming a great black and white hand that seemed to grasp a chicken. It caught the escaping Saint Heart mirror fragment in its palm and then swiftly shrank toward the inner hall. Chapter 75. The Battle 8,000 Years Ago. Outside the Great Hall, Sikong Luan's mind was like mush. He had not yet recovered from the act of the Saint Heart mirror shard escaping in the midst of battle. Then he saw a colossal hand that was half black and half white effortlessly yank back the Saint Heart mirror into the hall, as if snatching a chicken. Sikong Luan saw clearly, just as the colossal hand of black and white stretched out. The Saint Heart mirror shard suddenly burst forth with a profound black radiance, its aura shaking heaven and earth. Yet, under the might of that colossal hand, the profound radiance was like fire meeting water, dissolving in an instant. This. Sikong Luan's heart trembled. That was an evil soldier, and a true divine weapon shard. Without the emergence of divine weapons, their shards are invincible. Impenetrable by human force, that is an ironclad rule. But now, Sikong Luan discovered that the divine weapon shard was not as strong as he imagined. At least before that colossal hand of black and white, it seemed remarkably fragile. That's not right. A shock suddenly pervaded Sikong Luan's heart. It wasn't that the divine weapon shard was frail. Instead, that colossal hand of black and white was far too powerful. In this world, how can there be something so powerful? Sikong Luan was in utter disarray, and his thoughts briefly turned to Lin Yuan, whom he had seen not long ago. That colossal hand of black and white must have been Lin Yuan's doing. But Lin Yuan was neither a divine weapon nor a weapon wielder, so how could he possibly possess the strength to overpower a divine weapon shard? According to the many years of intelligence gathered by the Defying Divine Society, all weapon wielders are deeply influenced by the divine weapons, inherently bearing an aura that is cold, indifferent, and aloof. And on this point, Lin Yuan clearly did not fit. Inside the Great Hall, Lin Yuan was sitting casually in front of a desk. Before him, a fragment that resembled a mirror was floating. Are you human? No, how could a human cultivate to your extent? The Saint Heart mirror shard sent out waves of terrified spiritual thought. Compared to its perception outside the Great Hall, now in front of Lin Yuan, the shard was deeply shocked by Lin Yuan's vast and ocean-like aura. While still not on par with a fully awakened divine weapon, it was far superior to a divine weapon shard like itself. In the eyes of the Saint Heart mirror shard, this was utterly inconceivable, beyond all reason. The cultivating system of this world has its ultimate endpoint at the blood refinement martial saint. Beyond that there's simply no path to tread, no way to advance. But Lin Yuan, this is the essence of divine weapons. A strange glint crossed Lin Yuan's face, as the Saint Heart mirror shard before him appeared to be nothing more than a mere fragment. But through Lin Yuan's eyes, it seemed like the most perfect thing in the world. Observing the Saint Heart mirror shard was like observing a part of the heavens and earth. No, it was like observing a part of the heavens and earth laid bare, revealing its essence. Your perception defies the heavens. You gaze upon a part of the world's fundamental laws. Should you comprehend something? Your perception defies the heavens. You gaze upon a part of the world's fundamental laws. Should you comprehend something? Your perception defies the heavens. You gaze upon a part of the world's fundamental laws. Should you comprehend something? So-called divine weapons, are they an external manifestation of the laws of this world? Lin Yuan mused thoughtfully, as his strength continuously advanced further at the third rank level. Lin Yuan began to vaguely sense the fundamental laws that support the heavens and earth, sustaining the operation of the world. Even in the main world, Lin Yuan felt this sensation, although the fundamental laws there were exceptionally powerful. Even with all effort to comprehend, his gains were minuscule, much like the time Lin Yuan tried to perceive the endless cosmos. The progress was excruciatingly slow, and to understand the arcane rules governing the operation of the endless cosmos, even sitting in meditation for 10,000, 100,000, or 1,000,000 years may not suffice. Having arrived in this world, although the essence of the world is far inferior to the main world, trying to perceive the fundamental laws here is still far from easy. After all, any world, no matter how weak, has formed a perfect cycle. All fundamental essences are concealed within, making it incredibly difficult to perceive them. Yet now, as Lin Yuan looked at the Saint Heart Mirror shard before him, his gaze lit up with fervent excitement. Divine weapons like the Saint Heart Mirror are manifestations of the world's essence, which is why they could develop spiritual wisdom and be innately powerful. As such, because they represent the external manifestation of the world's fundamental essence, observing these kinds of divine weapons is far easier than directly perceiving the fundamentals of the heavens and earth. Especially so for the Saint Heart Mirror itself, having shattered, the fundamental laws revealed within are even clearer. Merely by observing and contemplating for a while, Lin Yuan managed to perfect the martial Tao cultivation system slightly, saving a day or two of work. What exactly do you intend to do? This seat is a divine weapon of heaven and earth, indestructible. Seeing Lin Yuan staring at himself with fervent eyes, the Saint Heart Mirror shard felt somewhat uneasy. With your strength, in the eyes of those 36 old fellows, you are no doubt a highly sought-after delicacy, the most delicious meal in thousands of years. If you release this seat, I will teach you a secret technique that can hide from the perception of those 36 old fellows. How about that? The Saint Heart Mirror shard immediately began to negotiate terms. The 36 old fellows it referred to were naturally the 36 complete nation-protecting divine weapons. Indestructible. Lin Yuan sent a portion of his consciousness to size up the Saint Heart Mirror shard up and down. Indeed, as a manifestation of the laws of heaven and earth, at least in this world, the Saint Heart Mirror shard was indestructible. Of course, indestructible here meant completely indestructible, not even leaving behind fragments. As for going from a complete divine weapon to being shattered, that was still achievable. Indestructible are only the divine weapons themselves. But as for the consciousness of spiritual wisdom, that can still be worn down, right? Lin Yuan countered with a smile that was not quite a smile. To this remark, the Saint Heart Mirror shard was immediately alarmed. How do you know? The Saint Heart Mirror shard couldn't believe it. When the original Saint Heart Mirror was shattered, its original consciousness had already vanished. The current Saint Heart Mirror shard was merely a new consciousness that had been born over a long time from the fragment itself. And not only this shard of the Saint Heart Mirror, but other shards had similarly given birth to new consciousness. It was precisely because of this reason that shards like the Saint Heart Mirror, which were considered evil soldiers, feared the true complete divine weapons. They were worried about falling into the hands of the others and then having their consciousness erased. However, such matters had always been a secret among the divine weapons. Other divine weapon shards wouldn't possibly divulge this to mere mortals. As for the secret technique, I don't need you to tell me. I can obtain it myself. Lin Yuan's eyes faintly displayed an inexplicable vortex, with the black and white marks of Taiji spreading and pervading, as tremendous spiritual otherworldly forces and soul powers abruptly descended toward the Saint Heart Mirror shard for suppression. Lin Yuan planned to soul-search the Saint Heart Mirror shard. Since the Saint Heart Mirror shard had given birth to its own consciousness, it was considered a living being and could have its memories forcibly accessed. This kind of soul-search secret technique was something that Lin Yuan had created after observing various soul and spirit evolution paths. Similar secret methods existed in the main world, and they likely served more or less the same purpose. What exactly do you want to do? The Saint Heart Mirror shard suddenly shrieked. Its body once again lit up with dark-colored light. Alas, under the suppression of Lin Yuan's Taiji field. All of the dark-colored light rapidly dissipated, and a vast and invisible force invaded deep into the shard. Through the method of soul search, Lin Yuan browsed through the other's memories, as if he were looking at flowers while riding past on horseback. Since the Saint Heart mirror itself had already shattered, many memories were incomplete. But Lin Yuan still found the information he wanted. According to the description in the memories, it was an event that occurred 8,000 years ago. Atop the 9 heavens, violent winds swept through that could easily tear apart a blood refinement martial saint. This place was a forbidden zone for life. But at this moment, there stood over 100 terrifying presences. The sources of these terrifying presences were unmistakably various weapons of war. Blade, spear, sword, halberd, bell, cauldron, and so on. What is that? Through the memories, Lin Yuan saw a long spear. It seemed as if all the light of heaven and earth was converging upon that spear. The body of the spear was engraved with the sun and moon, surrounded by an extremely sharp force. The sun and moon spear. It was the nation-protecting divine weapon of the Greater Yen dynasty. It was also one of the 36 complete divine weapons of the current age. Chapter 76, 50 years. Are all of these 100 weapons divine weapons? Lin Yuan looked around, his expression slightly somber. Through the memories of the Saint Heart mirror shards, Lin Yuan quickly confirmed the total number of weapons, including the source of Lin Yuan's current perspective, that is, a divine weapon resembling a mirror. Complete divine weapon, the Saint Heart mirror. So, 10,000 years ago, the total number of divine weapons was actually 100? Lin Yuan thought to himself. For over 20 years, he had been collecting information about divine weapons. The numerous pieces of intelligence he had obtained all mentioned that in ancient times, the number of divine weapons exceeded 36. Later, due to some unknown event, most of the divine weapons had disappeared. However, there was no specific information on how many divine weapons there were. Only now, by viewing the memories through the Saint Heart mirror shard, had Lin Yuan confirmed the total number of divine weapons. 100. 100 divine weapons. Just as Lin Yuan continued to observe these divine weapons. Boom! The centralmost tower-shaped divine weapon stirred. Its tremendous power exploded, affecting the other divine weapons. This caused the other divine weapons to be forced into action. The spear engraved with the sun and moon gently thrust forward, its sharp aura converging, directly piercing through a fan-shaped divine weapon. A melee ensued among the 100 divine weapons. Heaven and earth were in turmoil. If the battlefield had not been in the 9 heavens, far from the ground, there probably wouldn't have been anything left of the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms by now. The melee lasted for several months. In the end, most of the divine weapons were shattered, turning into fragments scattered across the 4 corners of the world. Only 36 divine weapons still stood in the arena. These 36 divine weapons included the nation-protecting divine weapon Sun and Moon Spear of the Greater Yen dynasty today. The aura emanating from the Sun and Moon Spear at that time was somewhat unstable, but it was clearly the victor. The melee among the divine weapons. Lin Yuan thought to himself. As for the cause of the melee, Lin Yuan could roughly guess it. The divine weapons needed to consume the human race in order to grow slowly. But the number of humans was limited. With the appetite of 100 divine weapons, the human race of the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms could not satisfy them. That was what ultimately led to this great battle. Only the most powerful divine weapons were entitled to enjoy the blood feast. As for the weaker divine weapons, they were directly shattered to extinction. In front of the desk, Lin Yuan set down the Saint Heart mirror shard he was holding. His expression turned ponderous. This time he had traveled from afar, leaving the capital, coming to Wuyan City. It was indeed the right decision. He had not only acquired a divine weapon shard that could be described as a manifestation of the essence of the rules, but had also learned about that great war 8,000 years ago, not recorded in any book. The great battle among 100 divine weapons. Master! Master! Spare my life. From the desk, the Saint Heart mirror shard emitted a faint spiritual fluctuation. While forcibly conducting a soul search, Lin Yuan also casually refined the mirror shard. If it had been a complete divine weapon, Lin Yuan would not have been able to refine it, but as it was only a shard, it naturally could not withstand Lin Yuan. After refining the Saint Heart mirror shard, Lin Yuan then had absolute control over its consciousness. Even if he could not destroy the shard, erasing the consciousness within it was merely a matter of thought. The Saint Heart mirror shard was also aware of its predicament, completely shifting from its previous negotiating stance, directly addressing Lin Yuan as Master. Spare your life. Lin Yuan glanced at the Saint Heart mirror shard. He realized the essence of the rules within the Saint Heart mirror shard, which had nothing to do with its consciousness. Even if the consciousness were to vanish, as long as the shard itself existed, the essence of the rules would remain, not impeding Lin Yuan's realization. However, now the survival or destruction of this consciousness was within a single thought from Lin Yuan, so there was no need to erase it so quickly. Otherwise, who knows how many years it would be before another consciousness emerged. Moreover, a divine weapon shard with its own consciousness indeed had some use for Lin Yuan. At least it could revive spontaneously, without Lin Yuan having to stimulate it. Outside the grand hall, Xikong Luin was somewhat at a loss. As soon as the Saint Heart mirror shard was forcibly pulled into the grand hall, Xikong Luin realized that his most significant support might have fallen. At this moment, Xikong Luin felt both joy and anxiety. The way Lin Yuan effortlessly suppressed the evil soldier gave Xikong Luin a tinge of ambition he shouldn't possess. For thousands of years, the human race had been mere food for the divine weapons. Never had anyone been able to counter the divine weapons, even just a divine weapon shard. However, Lin Yuan's arrival disrupted this balance. Yet what Lin Yuan's origins truly were, and whether he was indeed a human, or if he would stand on the side of the divine weapon, remained unclear to Xikong Luin. Time slipped away. While Xikong Luin became lost in his chaotic thoughts, a voice resounded silently by his ear. Come inside as well. Yes. Xikong Luin took a deep breath. As if facing judgment, he stepped inside the great hall. The interior of the hall was just as Xikong Luin remembered it. The only difference was a casually placed fragment of a mirror on the table where Lin Yuan sat. A mirror fragment? Xikong Luin swallowed hard, realizing that it wasn't just any piece of mirror, but rather a revered and worshipped evil soldier of their defying divine society. My lord! Xikong Luin fell to his knees with a thud. Lin Yuan glanced at him casually. From today onward, I want your defying divine society to submit to me completely. Can you do that? Lin Yuan asked indifferently. The influence of the defying divine society spanned all of the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms. The branch where Xikong Luin was located was merely one headquarters within the Greater Yan dynasty. Such a headquarters was one of 35 others, all hidden within the other 35 kingdoms. Lin Yuan's implied command was for Xikong Luin to subjugate the other 35 headquarters of the Defying Divine Society, to bring the entire Defying Divine Society under Lin Yuan's command. Facing Lin Yuan's words, Xikong Luin fell silent. If it had been anyone else who spoke to him like this, Xikong Luin would have refused without a second thought. The Defying Divine Society represented the last line in opposing the rule of the divine weapons. Even if they worshipped an evil soldier, it was only to bolster their courage against the true divine weapons. Xikong Luin could die, but the Defying Divine Society must never perish. Otherwise, all of the human race in the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms would forever become mere fodder for the divine weapons. I just want to know one thing. Xikong Luin stared at Lin Yuan and asked desperately, Are you human, and how do you view the divine weapons? Human. A smile appeared on Lin Yuan's face. He looked at Xikong Luin, who was ready to face death, and slowly said, I am indeed human, and as for those divine weapons, I've disliked them for quite some time. Upon hearing this, Xikong Luin felt an immense relief. Going forward, the Defying Divine Society will follow your lead. Sikong Luan said respectfully. Having received the answer he sought, Sikong Luan's heart finally relaxed completely. To preserve the spark of hope for the human race, the Defying Divine Society was even willing to worship a former divine weapon as an evil soldier. How much more so for Lin Yuan, who was a human? The capabilities Lin Yuan demonstrated provided Sikong Luan with hope of resisting the divine weapons, thus leading the rest of the Defying Divine Society to pledge allegiance to him was only natural. After subjugating Sikong Luan, Lin Yuan issued his first command. It was to report all known intelligence about the evil soldiers possessed by the Defying Divine Society. For Lin Yuan, each evil soldier represented an external manifestation of the world's essential laws. Observing their essence held great benefits and could significantly enhance the martial path evolutionary path, aiding Lin Yuan to advance sooner to the 4th rank. And not just to the 4th rank, but it also elevated the effect on the martial path evolutionary path. Does my lord intend to continue subjugating those evil soldiers? Sikong Luan immediately discerned Lin Yuan's intentions. You must be cautious, my lord. These evil soldiers are not easily subdued, Sikong Luan said softly. Though Lin Yuan had overwhelmingly suppressed the fragment of the Saint Heart Mirror, there is a difference between a divine weapon and its fragments. Some fragments, being larger and containing more of the full divine weapon, possess greater power. Even if they still can't defeat Lin Yuan, if one were to escape, it could still cause future troubles. No matter. Lin Yuan waved his hand dismissively. With his current strength, no divine weapons could emerge, and he could instantly suppress any number of fragments. Time slipped away. Another 50 years had passed. Chapter 77 Disaster of War. For the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms, with their history of thousands of years, 50 years did not amount to much. To most ordinary people, probably wasn't any different from the past. However, the royal families of the 36 kingdoms subtly perceived the slight abnormalities of the past 50 years. It mainly involved the remnants of the Defying Divine Society, whose actions were growing increasingly bold. The Defying Divine Society, as an underground organization expelled and wanted by the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms, was always like a rat crossing the street. To recruit new members, they always operated in a stealthy manner. Yet in recent years, these remnants of the Defying Divine Society became more arrogant, even daring to pull in people on the streets. The most shocking thing for the royal families was that every time they launched an encirclement campaign, the remnants of the Defying Divine Society seemed to receive advanced warnings, managing to escape coincidentally. This made the royal families realize that the Defying Divine Society had come prepared. As a result, the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms stepped up their suppression of the Defying Divine Society even further. In fact, 36 and 19 years ago, the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms even deployed divine weapon masters, aiming to harness the power of the nation-protecting divine weapons to deal a heavy blow to the Defying Divine Society. Unfortunately, the divine weapon masters of the Evil God Association intervened in time. Tying up the divine weapon masters of the 36 kingdoms allowed most of the elite members of the Defying Divine Society to leave in advance. The Central Plains' 36 kingdoms possessed nation-protecting divine weapons. By leveraging the power of nation-protecting divine weapons, they could train divine weapon masters. Although the Defying Divine Society did not have complete divine weapons, they possessed many divine weapon fragments. These were known as evil soldiers. Evil soldiers were essentially divine weapons in their essence. Provided an evil soldier's completeness met a certain standard, it was possible to train a divine weapon master. Of course, the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms referred to such masters as evil soldier masters. In direct combat, evil soldier masters naturally did not match up to divine weapon masters. But the former could slightly interfere with the latter. Unless the divine weapon master invoked the full awakening of their divine weapon, it was difficult to capture an evil soldier master. In general, a divine weapon master would not allow a divine weapon to fully awaken, because doing so meant their lifespan would be drastically reduced. The soul essence drawn by a fully awakened divine weapon would reach a horrific level. Every time a divine weapon fully awakened, the divine weapon master would live 10 years less. In a secret underground square, a towering man sat cross-legged in the very center. Around him were scattered dozens of weapon fragments. If there were an evil soldier master from the defying divine society present, they would be horrified to discover that these weapon fragments were indeed evil soldiers. Evil soldiers, the fragments of divine weapons. Although far less powerful than divine weapons, they too transcended the limits of the mundane. Yet at the moment, these supreme evil soldiers were treated like ordinary items, carelessly strewn across the ground. 50 years. The towering man, Lin Yuan, slowly opened his eyes. For the majority of those 50 years, he was contemplating the essential nature of the laws within the divine weapon fragments. As for the many state affairs of the greater Yan dynasty, over 40 years ago, Lin Yuan had specially selected a group of capable and loyal officials, establishing the cabinet to handle state matters on behalf of the emperor. Lin Yuan only needed to return from time to time to check on things. As an emperor, the most taboo thing is to micromanage everything. How many matters can one country have? If one were to inquire into each one, wouldn't it be exhausting to death? Of course, like Lin Yuan's long periods of disengagement, this was rare and typically a major taboo for emperors, as it easily led to being sidelined. But with Lin Yuan's strength, who could afford to sideline him, as he held immense force in one body? 4th rank. Lin Yuan looked towards the divine weapon fragments around him, his face falling into brief contemplation. With Lin Yuan's speed of cultivation, he had reached the completion of the Heavenman realm 20 years ago. And the completion of Heavenman realm, if placed in the main world, would be considered just short of 4th rank. But to break through further, to formally step into 4th rank, Lin Yuan was somewhat hesitant. The transition from 3rd rank to 4th rank, even in the main world, was a major bottleneck and shackles. Any evolver who could cultivate to the extreme pinnacle of 3rd rank was 1 in 1,000,000, 10 million, or even 1 in 100 million, a prodigy. Even so, to cross this major bottleneck and shackles, one would need at least hundreds of years, with many dying old at the extreme pinnacle of 3rd rank. This was under the premise of having a complete evolution path for guidance. For someone like Lin Yuan, who was carving out an evolution path, every step taken on a completely unknown road, breaking through to 4th rank was going to be 1,000-fold or even 10,000-fold more difficult. Of course, this 1,000-fold or 10,000-fold is relative to Lin Yuan's current strength at the extreme pinnacle of 3rd rank. If it were a higher-level evolver, such as at 5th rank or 6th rank, overseeing from a high level, carving out an evolution path would naturally be much easier. In fact, even with the 1,000-fold or 10,000-fold difficulty, with Lin Yuan's unreasonable against heaven's understanding, he should have broken through to 4th rank by now. But Lin Yuan kept hesitating. 4th rank and 4th rank are also not the same. For example, a heavenly master who ascended through the power of Tai-In or Tai-In is naturally of a different concept from one who ascended through the Tao of Taiji. This time, ascending to the 4th rank, Lin Yuan wanted to ascend through the essence of the rules contained within the divine weapon fragments. Ascending to the 4th rank in this way would definitely be the kind with the greatest potential. Over the past 50 years, Lin Yuan had collected dozens of divine weapon fragments, integrating their essence of rules into the martial Tao cultivation system. But these fragmented essences of rules were still too few for Lin Yuan. They weren't enough to support his ascension to the 4th rank. Divine Weapon Master. Lin Yuan's eyes narrowed slightly. Over the years, the Defying Divine Society had helped him collect divine weapon fragments that were naturally weaker. There was no help for it, for divine weapon fragments had their own consciousness. Even if Sikong Luan borrowed help and coaxed, he could only fool those ordinary divine weapon fragments. As for the truly powerful divine weapon fragments, the Defying Divine Society wasn't able to track them. Usually, these fragments had already cultivated their own weapon masters and lay dormant within them. The Defying Divine Society and these evil soldier masters tended to have a cooperative relationship. Neither could command the other. Each time the Defying Divine Society asked these evil soldier masters to take action, a great price had to be paid. Even so, the Defying Divine Society and these evil soldier masters, under the suppression of the Central Plains 36 kingdoms, were considered to be in the same camp. Evil soldier masters answered to evil soldiers, but evil soldiers were the losers of that war of 100 divine weapons 8,000 years ago. Broken by the strongest 36 divine weapons, scattered across the world. Therefore, evil soldiers had a natural grudge against the 36 divine weapons, their positions inherently opposed. As for the Defying Divine Society, it was a power made up of people who wished to rebel against the rule of divine weapons. They, too, were opposed to the 36 divine weapons. An enemy's enemy is a friend. Therefore, the Defying Divine Society and the evil soldiers naturally had an alliance. The previous anti-God association headquarters of Sikong Luan was suppressed by fragments of the Martial Saint realm. It was just that Lin Yuan had sent over 20 martial saints to trample that headquarters. A task completed too swiftly. So quickly that the Martial Saint realm fragments didn't even react before the fight was over. As Lin Yuan was deep in thought, sequence of faint footsteps grew closer from afar. Greeting the master. The person arriving was Sikong Luan. 50 years had passed, and Sikong Luan had aged much, with many white hairs on his head. Lin Yuan glanced at Sikong Luan and nodded slightly. Over the years, Sikong Luan had done quite well, continuously traveling between the Central Plains 36 kingdoms. Now many anti-God association headquarters were obedient to Lin Yuan, and Sikong Luan's efforts were indispensable. After all, Lin Yuan was immersed in cultivation and, to avoid attracting the attention of the real divine weapons, he made very few appearances. State your business. Lin Yuan spoke bluntly. After 50 years of acquaintance, he knew Sikong Luan quite well and understood that the other wouldn't come here without an important reason. Master, those evil soldier masters, wish to meet with you to discuss the matter of a decisive battle with the 36 kingdoms of the Central Plains. Sikong Luan hesitated for a moment before speaking softly. Decisive battle? Aren't they afraid of another calamity of soldiers? Lin Yuan frowned slightly. Calamity of soldiers referred to disasters caused by battles between divine weapons. 8,000 years ago, when the war of 100 divine weapons ended, the situation was clear. The 36 divine weapons each dominated a kingdom, feasting on the lifeblood of the living. But why does the history of the Greater Yan dynasty span only over 3,600 years? It wasn't just the Greater Yan dynasty. The histories of the other 35 states of the Central Plains were also 3,000 to 4,000 years old. The cause lies in the great decisive battle initiated by many evil soldiers and the Defying Divine Society, 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. That decisive battle enraged the 36 nation-protecting divine weapons. All 36 divine weapons awakened and began suppressing the evil soldiers, who had regained significant strength at that time. Their battles affected the lands of the Central Plains, leading to the downfall of dynasties and the lamentation of all beings. The 36 divine weapons suppressed on one hand and harvested the blood, spirits, and souls of the people on the other. It resulted in a major setback for the human race, which only recovered after several hundred to 1,000 years. But the effects of the battle continued. Old dynasties fell, and new 36 kingdoms were established. This was the origin of the Greater Yan dynasty and the other 35 states. This period was later referred to as the Calamity of Soldiers. Chapter 78. Lords of the Evil Soldiers. Few knew of the calamity caused by the weapons. Even within the royal families of the Central Plains 36 kingdoms, very few were aware. At least the Greater Yan dynasty had no records of it. Lin Yuan had learned about this extremely dark history from the ancient volumes of the Defying Divine Society. The 36 divine weapons revived, began to harvest lives without limits. It was a dark period, almost like an apocalypse. I'm not sure either. Sikong Luan was also puzzled, although he didn't understand as clearly as Lin Yuan. But he knew that the current Defying Divine Society and wielders of the evil soldiers were far from being a match for the Central Plains 36 kingdoms. Even though the Defying Divine Society's influence had grown significantly over the past 50 years with Lin Yuan's covert support, making the royal families of the 36 kingdoms extremely troubled. But there was still a gap in their pinnacle combat power. What could the defying divine society use to confront the fully revived 36 divine weapons? If they couldn't, there was a high likelihood of repeating the weapon calamity from 3 to 4,000 years ago. Could it be? Lin Yuan's expression shifted slightly. Even Sikong Luan sensed something was amiss, so the evil soldier wielders must have thought of it too. Even though the evil soldier wielders obeyed their respective evil soldiers, the evil soldiers weren't fools and would weigh the pros and cons. If a weapon calamity occurred, it would mean a heavy loss for those evil soldiers, possibly even erasing their own consciousness. Unless they had an irrefutable reason to wage a decisive battle. Lin Yuan's thoughts fluctuated, leading him to two possible reasons. One was that the evil soldiers had acquired some means to boost their confidence, such as recovering other fragments of themselves, giving them the confidence to confront the real divine weapons. The second was that the evil soldiers sensed that if they didn't initiate a decisive battle now, they would never have another opportunity to do so. Upon further contemplation, it was plausible that, in the upcoming times, the 36 divine weapons would undergo some kind of transformation. Once this transformation was complete, there would no longer be any chance for many evil soldiers to survive. Transformation. Lin Yuan's face turned contemplative. 8,000 years ago, the 36 divine weapons were already near 4th rank. After 8,000 years of slumber, continuously harvesting the vital energies and souls of living beings, could these divine weapons possibly take that step and advance to the 4th rank? It could only be this reason that made the evil soldiers disregard everything and wage a decisive battle. Because they knew that if they waited for the 36 divine weapons to advance to the 4th rank, they would have no chance whatsoever. Thus they would exert all their power to start a decisive battle. The purpose of the battle, even if they couldn't defeat the 36 divine weapons, was to halt or even fail their transformation. So be it. Let's go meet those evil soldier wielders then. Lin Yuan spoke slowly. Whether it was the need for more fragments of divine weapons, or the earlier speculations, Lin Yuan found it necessary to meet those evil soldier wielders. A month later, in the far south, this place was a miasma-filled jungle, rarely visited by humans, where ordinary hunters would just glance from afar and dare not approach even slightly. For hundreds, perhaps thousands of years, countless people had died within this jungle. Those miasmas, once inhaled, meant almost certain death. Over the years, this jungle became a forbidden area for nearby hunters. Yet beneath this jungle stood the Qingshi Grand Hall. In the center of the Grand Hall there were 18 stone thrones. At this moment all 18 stone thrones were occupied. Their expressions were cold, their auras profound, seeming to connect to some great existence, far surpassing the blood refinement martial saint in every move. These 18 individuals were all wielders of evil soldiers. Each had an evil soldier behind them, and even as mere fragments of divine weapons, their powers were beyond ordinary mortals to gauge. What background does that master of the defying divine society have, for the defying divine society to obey him so submissively? A man wearing a green robe spoke up. Before this master of the defying divine society appeared, the defying divine society was utterly respectful to them as wielders of evil soldiers, as well as to all evil soldiers. But now, everything had changed. The defying divine society even dared to negotiate terms with them. It is said that this master of the defying divine society possesses the power to suppress fragments of divine weapons, even rivaling the power of divine weapons himself. Another evil soldier spoke up. Nonsense. As soon as these words were uttered, several wielders of the evil soldiers displayed a mocking look. Since ancient times, the power of divine weapons had been superior to all creatures, and the fragments of divine weapons were no exception. Human strength, how could it possibly contend with the power of divine weapons? This point was clearer to wielders of evil soldiers than to anyone else. Perhaps the individual behind the leader of the defying divine society also stands with an evil soldier and is himself a user of an evil soldier? An evil soldier user spoke up. This statement indeed garnered approval from most of the evil soldier users present. Regardless of that, just then, the figure seated at the main seat spoke. When we meet the new leader of the Defying Divine Society, if he's just like us, an evil soldier user, then let it be. We can discuss the matter of the decisive battle slowly, as the evil soldier behind him likely won't refuse. If he's not. At this, a hint of cruelty crept into the voice of the figure in the main seat. While evil soldier users are also of the human race, under the influence of the evil soldiers, they gradually begin to see others as mere ants. No problem. Chingu brother is right. Let's do as brother Chingu says. The words of the figure in the main seat, Chingu, were not refused by any evil soldier user present. Even among evil soldier users, there are strengths and weaknesses. The nature of an evil soldier is a fragment of a divine weapon, and the size of this fragment, which occupies a certain portion of the original divine weapon, naturally determines the power of the evil soldier. Thus, there are 5 levels of evil soldier users. An evil soldier with a completeness of 30%. An evil soldier with a completeness of 40%. An evil soldier with a completeness of 50%. An evil soldier with a completeness of 60%. An evil soldier with a completeness of 80%. The higher the completeness, the closer the power of the evil soldier to a genuine divine weapon. And Qingwu's evil soldier commands an astonishing 90% completeness. This evil soldier's true strength is thus extremely close to that of a real divine weapon, which is why in the presence of other evil soldier users, it has an exceptional status. This time, the evil soldier users decided to initiate a decisive battle. Not only because the 36 divine weapons were about to make their final step, but also because Qingwu's evil soldier, with its rare completeness of 90%, ensures them a measure of self-defense, even in a decisive battle against the 36 divine weapons. After all, their purpose in initiating the decisive battle was not to defeat the 36 divine weapons but to interfere with them, preventing them from making their final step. Once the battle begins, their primary focus would naturally be on preserving their own lives. Suddenly, the 18 evil soldier users seated on the 18 stone seats shifted slightly in their expressions. They sensed an aura slowly making its way into the Qingshi Grand Hall from the entrance. Is it the leader of the Defying Divine Society? How bold of him to come here alone. The 18 evil soldier users were slightly startled, a playful look emerging on their faces. A moment later, a young man appeared at the entrance of the Qingshi Grand Hall. Are you the leader of the Defying Divine Society? The 18 weapon wielders remained seated, showing no intention of standing to greet their guest. Buzz! The power of heaven and earth converged. In the vague mix, a huge black hammer emerged from the air, smashing down towards Lin Yuan. An evil soldier user could not restrain themselves and made a move to test Lin Yuan. Too disappointing. Lin Yuan sighed lightly. Under the astonished gazes of the 18 evil soldier users, he merely waved his hand and the black hammer's shadow shattered. Before the evil soldier users could even react. You evil soldier users are quite impolite. Lin Yuan took a step forward, appearing next to the 18 stone seats. He then stepped forward again and Qingwu, who was seated in the main seat, exuding a serious demeanor with an evil soldier at 90% completeness, was pulled out by an invisible force, tossed aside like trash and smashed onto distant Qingshi rocks. Still sitting, Lin Yuan glanced over the remaining 17 evil soldier users. As soon as his words fell, the 17 evil soldier users on the 17 stone seats were all forced to stand up. During this, some evil soldier users tried to resist, even summoning the power of their evil soldiers, causing bursts of terrifying aura, but it was all suppressed within an inch around them. The normally earth-shaking power of the evil soldiers was now like a docile kitty. All the evil soldier users seated on the stone seats stood up. Seeing this, Lin Yuan then slowly took his seat in the main seat. Chapter 79. Splitting Heaven X. Qingshi Grand Hall. Silence reigned. All the haughty evil soldier envoys stood up, staring blankly at the young man seated in the place of honor. All right. You may sit down as well. Lin Yuan waved his sleeve. Instantly, the force that had compelled the evil soldier envoys to stand dissipated. The entire Qingshi Grand Hall reverted to normal, and if it hadn't been for the change of the person sitting in the main seat, many an envoy would have thought the preceding events were an illusion. The various evil soldier envoys exchanged glances, cold sweat beading on their foreheads. At this moment, whether to sit, to stand, or to flee, none seemed appropriate. Not sitting. With a smile in the corner of his mouth, Lin Yuan looked towards the envoys. In an instant, it felt as if a great mountain was pressing down upon them. All the envoys felt an immense force bearing down on their shoulders, their faces turning deathly pale and their legs trembling as they took their seats on the stone chairs. That's more like it. A satisfied expression appeared on Lin Yuan's face. The other evil soldier envoys, however, were caught in a maelstrom of emotion. Since Lin Yuan had entered the Qingshi Grand Hall, it had only been the span of a few breaths. But in this short period, he had suppressed all the envoys to the point where they hadn't even been capable of a smidgen of resistance. It wasn't that the envoys hadn't tried to resist. It was that they had resisted to no avail. How could this be possible? Even more incredible to the envoys was the fact that they hadn't felt the slightest hint of a divine weapons aura from Lin Yuan. Meaning Lin Yuan wasn't an envoy of the divine weapons. He wasn't an envoy, yet possessed power that surpassed the envoys. Such a scene, defying all logic, made the hearts of the envoys shiver. Who are you, exactly? Atop the Qingshi Grand Hall, Qinggu, who had been thrown from the main seat by Lin Yuan, barely managed to climb up, his eyes filled with dread as he looked towards Lin Yuan. That throw had nearly shattered all his bones and internal organs. Had it not been for the protection of the power of his evil soldier, he would be dead beyond dead by now. Did I speak to you? Why are you intervening? Lin Yuan glanced at Qinggu. Boom! A tremendous force descended. Qinggu's face turned scarlet, and with a thud, he knelt on the ground. This pitiful sight sent shivers down the spines of the other envoys. Compared to Qinggu kneeling on the ground, they, the evil soldier envoys, were at least seated on stone chairs. Albeit also compelled, it at least appeared far more dignified. I ask a question, and you answer it. If there's anything else to add, feel free to do so. Lin Yuan casually spoke as he adjusted his sleeve. Next, Lin Yuan paid no heed to the thoughts of these envoys. He asked directly, why have you instigated this decisive battle? Although Lin Yuan had his suspicions, he still wanted to hear what these envoys would say. It's like this. One of the envoys, unable to bear the pressure, spoke out. What a joke. Although up to this point all 18 of them were alive. But with Lin Yuan's recently displayed overwhelming strength, the envoy had no doubts that Lin Yuan had the power to kill them all completely. In such a situation, none of the envoys would display a stance of defiance unto death. Some of them had already attempted to communicate with their internal evil soldiers, seeking to revive them. Even if they still couldn't defeat Lin Yuan, at least there was hope for a full retreat. But aside from the beginning, when the evil soldiers attempted to release power to oppose Lin Yuan, right now all the evil soldiers within the envoys seemed to have vanished, completely disregarding the pleas of the envoys. This was the will of the evil soldier lords. The evil soldier lords told us that within 100 years, those 36 divine weapons will take that one step, reaching the domain of the Father God. Therefore, we must exert our full strength, whatever the cost, to prevent this event from happening. Otherwise, there will be no place for us in the heavens or on the earth. The multitude of envoys started speaking one after another, revealing roughly everything they knew. It matched pretty closely with what Lin Yuan had surmised. After 8,000 years of nurturing and slumber, those 36 nation-protecting divine weapons were indeed on the cusp of reaching the 4th rank. This also highlighted the difficulty of advancing from the 3rd to the 4th rank. Those 36 divine weapons were the external manifestations of this realm's fundamental rules. Yet even so, to step into the 4th rank was arduous. What more for ordinary beings? Ancient godly being, Lin Yuan pondered with a contemplative look. Father God, as mentioned by the envoys, referred to the ancient godly being. 10,000 years ago, an ancient godly being offered mountains and rivers, smelted the 4 seas, and eventually forged 100 divine weapons. This was the origin of all the current divine weapons. Therefore, whether it's the complete divine weapons or the fragmented evil soldiers, they all refer to that ancient godly being from 10,000 years ago as Father God. For decades, Lin Yuan had been trying to uncover more information about this ancient godly being, and had found very little. Even when forcibly seizing information from an evil soldier, due to their fragmented essence, he could only obtain a few glimpses from after 10,000 years. As for the memories related to that ancient godly being from before 10,000 years, and how the divine weapons were forged, it all remained exceedingly vague. The evil soldiers only knew Father God was great, but the more specific, detailed memories were absent. Lin Yuan was quite curious about that ancient godly being. In his view, that ancient godly being was at least a powerhouse at the 4th rank, or even someone who had advanced far within that tier. Yet how could such a formidable being leave not a trace of information, even if they couldn't live for 10,000 years? Gathering his thoughts, Lin Yuan's gaze once again fell upon the envoys. "I need your help with something." Lin Yuan spoke in a gentle tone, smiling as he said so. This speech left all the evil soldier wielders present scratching their heads. With the strength that Lin Yuan had revealed so far, it wasn't a stretch to say that he could match a real divine weapon, so what could possibly require their help? "Please go ahead, sir." The evil soldier wielder who first answered Lin Yuan's questions spoke cautiously. "I would like to borrow a look at the evil soldiers within your bodies." Lin Yuan said calmly, his gaze steady. With these words, a hush fell over the crowd once again. Then, "Audacious! How dare you! Mortal, you're courting death." Terrible fluctuations of spiritual force burst forth from each of the evil soldier wielders. One by one, the phantom images of evil soldiers emerged, especially the Qinggu, kneeling in the grand hall, within whom a nearly complete giant axe phantom loomed. The divine weapon, splitting heaven axe. Lin Yuan's gaze lingered on the phantom of this giant axe for a moment. During the great battle of 100 divine weapons 8,000 years ago, this splitting heaven axe was second only to those 36 most powerful divine weapons. Even in defeat, it had retained most of its original body. Initially, these evil soldiers intended to avoid Lin Yuan's sharp edge after sensing his strength, which explained why none of them had responded despite the evil soldier wielders calling out to them. But who could have imagined that Lin Yuan would be so audacious as to want to borrow a look at them? Not bad at all. Lin Yuan's gaze turned slightly fervent. He had specifically come here not just to confirm his suspicions. His main objective was to collect more complete evil soldiers. If Lin Yuan planned to ascend to 4th rank by the essence of the rules, he had to comprehend a great number of evil soldiers, perhaps even real divine weapons. Thus, the more powerful these evil soldiers were, the better. Outside the Qingshi Grand Hall, Xikong Luan looked worried, pacing back and forth. "The Lord has been impulsive again," Xikong Luan fretted. After he and Lin Yuan arrived at the location as per the evil soldier wielder's guidance, Xikong Luan planned to enter the hall with Lin Yuan. After all, compared to Lin Yuan, Xikong Luan, had plenty of experience communicating with those evil soldier wielders. Knowing what the evil soldier wielders wanted, even if negotiations broke down, he and Lin Yuan still had a chance to leave unscathed. At worst, they would pay a price. But Lin Yuan had asked him to wait outside and went in alone. This only made Xikong Luan more anxious. He was aware of Lin Yuan's strength, strong enough to easily suppress evil soldiers. But the evil soldier wielders inside the Qingshi Grand Hall, which one of them was easy to deal with. Those gathered here, their evil soldiers had an integrity of over 50%. Far surpassing that piece of the Holy Heart Realm fragment from before. There was even an evil soldier with 90% integrity, extremely close to a divine weapon. With such power, yet Lin Yuan had walked in so boldly, what if negotiations went south? It would surely lead to a great loss. Sikong Luan admitted Lin Yuan's abilities but didn't believe that Lin Yuan would be able to gain any advantage in front of so many powerful evil soldier wielders. There shouldn't have been a fight. Sikong Luan let out a slight sigh of relief. Given Lin Yuan's methods and the strength of the evil soldier wielders, if a real battle had ensued, it would have been earth-shattering. Not this quiet. This was a small comfort to Sikong Luan. But only a small one. Because Lin Yuan had yet to come out. Not coming out. It meant there was still uncertainty. A great battle could still occur. As Sikong Luan anxiously waited, a figure slowly emerged from the entrance. "Sir." Sikong Luan was overjoyed. Thankfully, the worst hadn't happened. Lin Yuan nodded slightly, a smile on his face indicating his good mood. "Take care of the people coming out behind me." After Lin Yuan finished speaking, he departed straight away. Take care of what? Sikong Luan was somewhat confused. What people? He remembered that Lin Yuan had gone in alone. There were no others in the entire Qingshi Grand Hall besides Lin Yuan and those powerful evil soldier wielders. Just as Sikong Luan was puzzled, the evil soldier wielders, led by Qing Gu, stepped out from the entrance, their faces pale and their bodies trembling. Having the evil soldiers forcibly extracted was tantamount to extracting their bone marrow and muscles. If it weren't for Lin Yuan thinking that the souls and spirits of the evil soldier wielders were innately strong and might be useful later, they wouldn't have survived. Seeing these evil soldier wielders, Sikong Luan put together their demeanor and realized that the ones Lin Yuan wanted him to take care of were these evil soldier wielders. Sikong Luan swallowed hard. With his intelligence, he, of course, understood that if Lin Yuan asked him to take care of them, it meant these evil soldier wielders had already submitted. Otherwise, even if he wanted to, they would not have allowed him to do so. But Sikong Luan felt a profound shock. He had just been worried about Lin Yuan's safety, concerned about Lin Yuan being at a disadvantage against the evil soldier wielders. And now, seeing the ashen-faced 18 evil soldier wielders, Sikong Luan looked up at the departing figure of Lin Yuan like one looks up to a god. Chapter 80. Let's go worship the divine weapon. The essence of the rules contained in the evil soldier like the splitting heaven axe allowed Lin Yuan to advance further toward the 4th rank. To continue increasing the strength of the defying divine society, Lin Yuan bestowed the divine weapon fragments he had previously obtained. He granted them all. They were used to nurture new divine weapon masters. These divine weapon fragments, which were completely comprehended by Lin Yuan, had no further significance if kept by his side. Moreover, the bestowed divine weapon fragments were also refined and completely obeyed Lin Yuan's commands. The divine weapon masters cultivated with these evil soldiers naturally would not be unruly but were completely loyal to Lin Yuan's command. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, another 5 years had gone by. The capital of the Greater Yen Kingdom. 100 Flowers Hall. This place was once the palace where the Empress Dowager of Greater Yen stayed as a concubine. Although as the Empress Dowager, she should have moved to a higher standard palace, Wang Shangfeng did not do so. She had lived in the 100 Flowers Hall for over 10 years and had grown accustomed to it. On this day, Lin Yuan came to visit his mother. Since his ascension, Lin Yuan mostly focused on cultivation, visiting only once every 6 months or even a year. Yuan, how do you feel about those concubines I selected for you last time? Wang Shangfeng, though over 90 years old, looked only 45, her complexion rosy and her spirit very good. In this world system of cultivation, the blood refinement martial saint, though comparable to the pinnacle of the 2nd layer, was of no use in terms of extending lifespan, even for a martial saint who could at most live just over 100 years. Lin Yuan speculated that this was also influenced by the divine weapons. After all, the longer one lived, the more likely one could research a level surpassing that of martial saint. Most of the 36 divine weapons were always dormant, naturally not allowing such control-exceeding incidents to occur. Thus, their lifespans were directly limited. Even powerful blood refinement martial saints reaching this stage would mostly be 70 or 80 years old, with weakening vitality and nearing the end of their lifespan. Where would they have the energy to research the realm beyond martial saint? Wang Shangfeng was not a martial saint, and at her age was still lively, naturally owing to the marrow cleansing performed on her secretly by Lin Yuan. For Wang Shangfeng, the marrow cleansing performed with Lin Yuan's current power was akin to an immortal pill. According to Wang Shangfeng's current health, living to 200 years old was not a problem. It's okay, Lin Yuan replied nonchalantly. Ascending the throne for 50 or 60 years, Lin Yuan had not sired any children. Mainly because there was no need. Lin Yuan was not the retired Emperor Lu Shi. An emperor needs heirs primarily to determine the crown prince and confirm the successor to the dynasty. But Lin Yuan did not need these. With his lifespan, even if he had children, it would definitely be the crown prince who would pass away first. Remaining in this world for at least 160 years was enough to outlive any blood refinement martial saint. Even if he really needed to leave descendants, he would consider it only in the last 20 or 30 years of his extended stay. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's response, the Empress Dowager Wang Shangfeng immediately knew her son was just placating her. But now Wang Shangfeng had no way to deal with Lin Yuan. Under Lin Yuan's rule, the Greater Yan dynasty was now almost comparable to the strongest few nations among the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms. And Lin Yuan's prestige also surpassed that of previous emperors, becoming the most accomplished emperor since the founding of the Greater Yan dynasty. By the way, your father has not been feeling well recently. Yuan, you should find time to visit him, Wang Shangfeng said softly as if thinking of something. All right? Lin Yuan nodded and replied. Leaving the 100 Flowers Hall, he was greeted by a member of the royal family who came to see him. Your Majesty, our Greater Yan dynasty has not produced any weapon masters for over a decade. This member of the royal family was also one of Lin Yuan's elders, now aged and frail, reminding Lin Yuan. For the Central Plains' 36 kingdoms, the most important task was cultivating weapon masters. Everything else was secondary. Only with a weapon master could they suppress the nation's foundation. And the last generation weapon master, Lin Yuan's elder sister, had passed away over a decade ago. Since she had never revived a divine weapon or even stimulated one, she lived longer compared to other weapon masters. Weapon masters! In front of Lin Yuan's eyes appeared the image, from 50 or 60 years ago, of his elder sister running up to him to see him one last time, her eyes reddening with tears. After becoming a divine weapon master, one was bound to the divine weapon, and unless Lin Yuan's power overwhelmingly surpassed, it was difficult to sever the bond between them. This matter is not urgent, Lin Yuan said indifferently. Yes. The royal descendant hesitated to speak and then stopped, finally saying nothing. After dismissing this royal descendant, Lin Yuan soon met the retired Emperor Lu Shi. Compared to Wang Shangfeng, Lu Shi's condition was much worse. His hair and beard were all white, skin wrinkled. That was the case because Lin Yuan had never performed the marrow cleansing on Lu Shi. As a former emperor of the Greater Yan dynasty, Lu Shi had performed multiple rituals with the nation-protecting divine weapons. The marks of the divine weapons had long been planted on him. Should Lin Yuan use his own power to perform marrow cleansing for Lu Shi, it was highly likely to alert that nation-protecting divine weapon of the Greater Yan dynasty. Father Emperor! Lin Yuan and the retired Emperor Lu Shi talked for a long time. Mainly, it was Lu Shi speaking and Lin Yuan listening. Lu Shi also had heard about the current state of the Greater Yan dynasty. His own son had become the most accomplished sage monarch in the history of the dynasty. Lu Shi was naturally joyful from the bottom of his heart.
Yuan, I'm afraid you must depart.
In this lifetime, the thing I, Lu Shi, regret the least, is handing over Greater Yan to you. Lu Shi spoke for a while, then felt spiritless and closed his eyes to sleep. It's about time. Upon leaving the palace where retired Emperor Lu Shi resided, Lin Yuan looked up towards the due north. There lay the ancestral grounds of the divine weapons of the Greater Yan dynasty. 5 or 6 years ago, Lin Yuan had already reached the edge of 4th rank, not weaker than the divine weapons. Now, having absorbed the foundational laws from many evil soldiers like the splitting heaven axe, his strength had increased once more. The next day, in the court, the civil and military officials of the Greater Yen dynasty were excited. Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today.